This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
And it is Friday, August 8th, a big day, a big anniversary. 3 years ago today, everything changed in this country. 3 years ago today, at the crack of dawn, 30 armed FBI agents showed up at Mar-a-Lago with a search warrant and searched the former president's home. This was a historic moment. It had never happened before, of course. It hasn't happened since. They never raided Joe Biden's home, even though he kept classified documents in his garage around his crackhead son. They never raided Hillary Clinton's home, even though she destroyed 33,000 classified emails and smashed her cell phones with a hammer. But they raided Trump's home. They made a big show of it. They posted photos of Trump's home, making it look like the documents were just laying on the floor. It was a big show, big photo op. It was all, of course, on orders from Joe Biden, who denied he had a role in that, but we all know he did. His pit bull, his attack dog, Merrick Garland, defended it, said they had to retrieve these documents. In the end, they took out, I believe, dozens of boxes. They actually found 102 classified documents. That's it, 102, which was an absolute political stunt. This was a game changer. I can remember this day vividly. I was not sure if I was going to support Donald Trump in his attempt to return to the White House. I thought his first term was very successful. I had no problem with Trump returning to the White House, but Ron DeSantis had very similar policies. He was a great candidate. He was 30 years younger. He could serve 2 terms. So I was open to either candidate. On that day, I tweeted, I said on this show that I was open to other candidates before this day. On this day, I said I would crawl across Gaza with a yarmulke on to vote for Trump, and many others did. Tucker Carlson on that day said he was now committed to voting for Donald Trump because this was a real threat to democracy. This was frightening, if you don't recall this day. I remember it well because when I learned of the raid, I was in a car on the way to go tape the Tucker Carlson show. Actually, I think it was live. I was on the way to appear on the Tucker Carlson show. They sent a car to my house and I'm heading to the studio, and the driver had the radio on. I had my phone out, and we were like, holy crap, the news broke. I show up at the studio and I expect to get canceled. I thought they'd just cancel all the guests and change the topic, but they didn't. They ran with the story, of course, and I made my appearance on Tucker Carlson and talked about this and how outrageous it was. When you think about it, when you look back, they sent armed FBI agents to the president's home, which is guarded, protected by the Secret Service. There were no Secret Service agents in Joe Biden's garage. That was not a secure location. Or at the Penn Biden Center, where they found other classified documents. They had no concern that Mike Pence had classified documents at his home. But this is what a sitting president did. Sent agents to rummage through the First Lady's underwear drawer to stop his potential opponent. That's the lengths they went to stop Trump. And it was just one of those moments. We all know what else they did. They kept him tied up in a courtroom all summer when he should have been out campaigning with phony charges. They changed the statute of limitations in New York to allow a crazy woman to charge him with rape so they would have a talking point and call him an adjudicated rapist or whatever the hell they called him. They obviously tried to take him off the ballot. They tried to bankrupt him. They fined him almost $500 million. They shot him, and they did not stop him. This was just one of many mistakes they made. One of many attempts they made to stop him that blew up in their faces. This was historic, and it's hard to believe we're sitting here 3 years later. Trump is 6 months into his second term, and he's just getting things done. There will never be a comeback story like this ever again. There'll never be a Lazarus rising from the ashes like Donald Trump did after all they put him through and after all they did to try to stop him. Here he sits again in the Oval Office, working like a maniac, delivering on his promises, and just not stopping. Here was the report from 3 years ago from Newsmax, Wake Up America. I think we all watched this, heard this, and said, is this real? They never raided Hunter Biden's room, but they raided Barron Trump's bedroom at Mar-a-Lago. Check this out.
News came out yesterday, the FBI raiding former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. And that's where our own correspondent Leo Feldman joins us now live. Good morning, Leo.
Good morning, Allison. Carl, that's right. I'm outside Mar-a-Lago here in Palm Beach, where yesterday the FBI raided the former president of the United States, Donald Trump's home. What I can tell you is that, according to reports, the Secret Service was notified the night before regarding this raid. And it is important to point out that Secret Service did not take part of the raid, but they did facilitate access, according to NBC News. The raid was in connection to the 15 boxes from the National Archives that they say the former president took. Approximately 30 FBI agents took part of the search. They were all allegedly in plain clothes, and they ended up breaking Trump's safe that was located in his office. Evidence was taken to the South Florida's FBI, and the entire raid took place from approximately 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., according to reports. These are some of the reactions from Florida politicians, Florida Republicans, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who said, quote, "The raid of Mar-a-Lago is another escalation in the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents. While people like Hunter Biden get treated with kid gloves, now the regime is getting another 87,000 IRS agents to wield against its adversaries." Banana Republic. And Christina Pushaw, his press secretary, tweeted, "Anyone who knows about my background before I came to Florida will understand why the politicization of the FBI, DOJ, or even appearance of it scares me more than anything else. We Americans like to tell ourselves it couldn't happen here until it happens." And Senator Marco Rubio tweeted, "The FBI isn't doing anything about the groups vandalizing Catholic churches, firebombing pro-life groups, or threatening Supreme Court justices, but they find time to raid Mar-a-Lago." And it is important to point out that yesterday and today, we have seen some protesters here, but so far this morning, there are about 10 of them.
Nothing energized Trump supporters. Nothing mobilized them. Nothing motivated them like this moment, August 8th, 2022, when they raided his home and went through his wife and his son's bedrooms, allegedly searching for classified documents. This was a remarkable moment in time. And as we sit here today, and Marco Rubio pointed that out, they were targeting Catholic churches. They infiltrated Catholic churches. They were putting peaceful pro-life protesters in prison for years. There has never been a administration that weaponized the DOJ, the intel agencies, like the Biden regime. And today they fail. We know now they failed. They failed miserably. They did everything, legal or otherwise, everything ethical, everything unethical, immoral, to stop Trump, and they failed. And that's a wonderful thing. But here we sit today. Again, Trump is kicking ass. He's in the White House. He's getting things done. He learned so much. By doing that, by raiding his home, by keeping him in court, charging with 34 felonies, charging him with rape, making up stuff in New York about hush money payments. I say this all the time. He sat in that courtroom with Letitia James staring holes in his head in the courtroom every day. And what he said to himself as he sat there was, it's going to be different. Trump 2.0 is going to be different. He has learned just how dangerous, just how ruthless just how unethical these people are. And every day he goes into that Oval Office with his eyes wide open this time. He knows what he's up against. That's why it feels so different. Today, they are still trying to convince, Democrats are still trying to convince their supporters who hate Trump that Trump is a threat to democracy. I can't believe they actually say that after what we lived through for 4 years. It's a remarkable thing to watch. And they're using the same language that Trump's a threat to democracy as we follow the fight in the redistricting fight in Texas and other places soon to be. That Trump is the threat to democracy, the guy they raided, the guy they arrested, the guy they tried to put in prison where they hoped he would die. They wanted to put him in prison for the rest of his life. And today, as Trump continues to get to kick out, remove illegal aliens, close the border, try to stop wars, they're telling you he's the threat to democracy. And they must, to stop this threat to democracy, they must fight harder. They're going to fight Trump. That's what their base is begging them. Fight Trump, fight hard, fight dirty. James Carville, who is just an insane old man at this point, but he is an important voice in the Democrat Party. There was a remarkable moment on his, I guess, on a podcast with another old fossil, Al Hunt, where James Carville laid out the plan for 2028, the plan to, save democracy. And this is what they're going to do. This is what they're hoping to do. If you're a Democrat right now, you're saying, we got to go all in on stopping this threat to democracy. How do we do that? Well, we pack the Supreme Court. We add 2 states. This is incredible. Here's Carville laying out the plan for 2028 to, protect democracy. Go ahead.
If the Democrats win the presidency, the Senate and the House in 2028, which is not impossible. I don't know if you say likely or possible. I don't know what word but it's certainly not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they're going to do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it. And they may have to expand the court to 13 members. Any of those things in isolation, I would be skeptical about. I would be cautious about. I would say, well, I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. You're opening Pandora's box, or all kinds of things. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things, because we just are moving further and further away from being anything close to democracy.
So we're not a democracy, he says, because one red state is redistricting, which they have done in virtually every blue state. As we've gone over, the Massachusetts and Illinois and so many others are threatening to fight fire with fire and redistrict after Texas redid it. They can't, because they already did it. We've seen the maps. All their maps look like Hunter Biden's finger paintings. They're all these crazy districts designed to eliminate Republican congressional seats and increase the power of Democrats. Someone made a remarkable point. In 2010, the Republicans won big wave, big red wave. They won 63 seats in the House. This time, a Republican wave, which delivered the White House with the popular vote and the 7 swing states, they gained 4 seats. And that's because of Democrat redistricting. And now Democrats are threatening to redistrict in response to what Republicans are doing in Texas, which would gain Republicans maybe 5 seats and maybe eliminate Jasmine Crockett, which we're not supporting. We want to keep Jazzy Crockett in place. But Carville actually says to save democracy, they have to expand the Supreme Court to 13 and change the flag, add 2 states and 4 Democrat senators. He's so old and so crazy. He says the quiet part out loud. I have no doubt that many Democrats in D.C., including Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren, agree with that. They want to go to extreme measures to save democracy from this tyrant, this authoritarian. I am glad to see that it is falling on deaf ears. Nobody believes Trump's a threat to democracy. It's just a silly talking point that you get from the green-haired old ladies who are protesting in the streets and the people who went to the Tesla dealerships. They're just lunatics. Nobody thinks Trump is the furthest thing from an authoritarian. Hell, he's not even defying court orders from rogue judges. And can they name one thing he's done that's authoritarian? What would that be exactly? They don't have it. They just are making it up and count, as usual, relying on their brainless base to get riled up and scream about fascism. But you want to see real fascism? Go back and watch the videos from 3 years ago today when they actually sent armed agents to the home, a home that was protected by Secret Service, to the home to retrieve documents. And they did nothing of the sort. They have never done anything like that to a Democrat. But big day, wild day that was. I'll never forget that day because, it's all about me. And I was on Tucker's show and it was just crazy, just insane. Speaking of crazy and insane, we're going to get to this. Mr. Wonderful goes after Liz Warren. I love this because Liz Warren is supporting the communist. Yes, a prominent Democrat is all in on electing a communist mayor of New York City. And I've come to the conclusion that it is going to happen. It appears to me that none of the other three candidates, Curtis Sliwa, Andrew Cuomo, they're not pulling out. They're all in. Eric Adams, because they're all narcissists. None of them is willing to give up their own personal goals here for the good of the city. So if they're in, he's in. No one's close to him in the polls in a four-way race. So we are going to have a communist mayor of our biggest and most important city. And Democrats like Liz Warren, AOC, Bernie Sanders are all in. This is good. Bad for New York City, but really good for the Republican Party. We will get to Mr. Wonderful and a CNBC guy who just puts Liz Warren in her place. It's great to see. And big night on late night comedy. Greg Gutfeld appears on Jimmy Fallon. It was a bizarre appearance. It was funny. I'll give you my whole review of that appearance. We'll get to that and much more on this Friday, August 8th.
Excuse me.
If you've ever searched for your name or address on Google, it's shocking to find how many results have your personal information, and it's not by chance. Data brokers and people search sites, collect your personal information, your name, address, phone number, financial info, income, and hundreds of other records. They sell it and share it publicly without your consent. But Incogni is here to put an end to that. It hunts down these unethical sites and gets your info removed from the places that expose your private information. You don't have to email anyone, fill out forms, or jump through hoops. They handle the entire process for you. Incogni is also continually monitoring if your data is put back into these databases, requesting repeated removals. This way, it keeps them off there forever. So you get fewer spam calls, spam emails, and you get more peace of mind. And best of all, you can cancel anytime, and they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can get it completely risk-free. Right now, you get 60% off an annual plan by going to incogni.com and use code word Callahan. That's incogni, incogni.com/Callahan, and use the code word Callahan at checkout. You get 60% off and protect your data for an entire year. All right, it's Friday. That means we'll get to your comments. Ironhead is compiling the good ones. Send in some good ones here this morning, and we'll get to them before we're done here. But Mr. Wonderful, I never was a big fan of Mr. Wonderful, but I've come around because he is just a good, common sense conservative. He's everything Democrats hate. He's everything Liz Warren hates. He's an entrepreneur, an achiever, an investor. He hires people. He pays more than his fair share of taxes. He knows how capitalism works. He knows it is not a good thing for New York City to elect a communist who wants government-owned grocery stores, who has vowed to seize the means of production. Democrats always leave that out when they support Zoran Mamdani. And Liz Warren certainly never mentioned that when she went down to New York. A senator from Massachusetts went to New York to endorse the communist and say that is his message is the Democrat message. Bad look, Liz, bad look for the Democrat Party as a whole. But anyway, Kevin O'Leary made an appearance and he was asked about Liz's stance on this and what will happen to New York City when they elect this guy in November. Here is Mr. Wonderful.
Let me preface my comments by saying I'm a Boston guy. My kids were born and grew up there. One of them's still in school there. I have a home there. But like all my neighbors, we all live in Florida now because of Elizabeth Warren. I applaud her. She says outrageous things and she raises lots of money behind that. She's a marketer. But this comment she's making about affordability in New York, she's full of poo-poo on that. The reason you don't have affordability in New York is because of policy. It has been mismanaged now for decades. And so if you're a developer like I am, I would love to invest in affordable housing in New York. I need a permit. You can't put rent control on it or I can't get a return for investors. And what happens is the capital just goes somewhere else. What he's proposing, particularly on rent control, and I don't know yet because I haven't met with him yet and I'm trying to get a meeting, on a new building, on a new development, on new capital coming in, is he going to put rent control on that? There won't be any capital. Nobody's going to invest in that. They'll just go to Tennessee. They'll go to Texas. They'll go to Florida. They'll go to North Dakota, South Dakota. He's got to understand, if you want to have policy like that in a state, the founding fathers made it competitive. You don't have to invest in New York. As I've said many times, even with you, you can see the Rockettes. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not putting a dime in there until I find out what the policy is going to be.
Exactly. That's the problem. And they don't see it. But now Senator Warren wants socialist communist Zohran Mamdani's idea to have taxpayer-funded and government-owned grocery stores. Communist Venezuela has a severe food crisis. It's got 20,000 government-owned grocery stores, Kevin. I mean, 40% of Venezuelans, children are malnourished. They're going hungry. And also this, Kevin, didn't Joe Biden turn over his entire White House to the far left, and then inflation hit 40-year highs? I mean, when Champagne socialists claim they're going to make something free, it's just going to make something more unaffordable or less available. And everyone's taxes go up.
You know, I must tell you something. You might find this interesting. The first time this story broke last week, they had some images of one of these grocery stores in another state that was state-run, and it had like one bag of lettuce on the whole shelf. I saw that image in Soviet-controlled Ukraine in the early 80s. It freaked me out. Rotten apples, one or two of them on a shelf. And there it is. You've got these images. That's what the Soviet Union looked like. I was there. I saw it. It gave me a chill to see that. That can't be America, and that can't be New York. And what is Elizabeth Warren doing in New York anyways? Get out of there. Go fix Boston. Go fix Massachusetts. Why don't you try and get some guys like me back there? You've made the policy impossible there. Well, you want to destroy another state? With all due respect, because I love the way she markets this outrageous stuff. She's one of the winners in raising $5 at a time.
You know what? I blame schools. I blame our public school system and the universities. Because when I was a kid, we learned that. What he's saying, that socialism doesn't work, that the Soviet Union failed, that a place like Venezuela, people are going hungry. And now we have a candidate who's saying the opposite, that we need socialism. Liz Warren says it'll make it more affordable. Government-owned grocery stores will make things more affordable. It's just insane that this is a prominent senator from one of our two political parties telling you that we need socialism to make New York City more affordable. Well, she went on CNBC also to sell this garbage, and the host, let me get his name, was having none of it and just schooled Liz yet again. It's so simple. Again, it's not like it's federal. Not like you can't leave. It's not like you're stuck here. They can leave. Every single achiever, high earner, big taxpayer in New York is right now online looking at real estate in Florida or Tennessee or Texas or wherever. They're all thinking of getting out. Many of them are probably already out because they know Zamdani is likely to be the next mayor. Here's the fake Indian on CNBC.
Donnie, and you are in New York, sort of speaking in behalf of him to a certain extent. I wonder, though, often we see this, and this is a local election. New York does not operate in a vacuum. It competes with other cities. And so this idea of somehow raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, who, by the way, I would point out, pay roughly 15% of their income right now between city and state, raising taxes on them will simply drive them away. Shouldn't the focus of a mayor be on delivering services to the constituents of the city and doing that by raising the most revenue as possible without chasing businesses and the high income taxpayers out of the city? Because they can go to Austin, they can go to Dallas, they can go to Atlanta, they can go to Nashville. This is your issue. It's a national issue, not a local issue.
The issue is affordability. Do you know how many working families are chased out of New York City every day because they can't afford housing, they can't afford groceries, they can't afford childcare? What Zoran is saying is, I want people to be able to afford to live in New York City. That's what keeps it a vibrant city. That's what makes people want to live
Nobody
here.
disagrees with that, Senator, but raising taxes in order to do it? Why is that the answer?
Oh, dear. Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
No, I'm worried that they're going to leave and spend their money elsewhere.
They've threatened to do that over and over and over.
And they have. They've left.
But here's the thing.
And Goldman Sachs, when they create new jobs, they do it in Dallas. And Blackstone won't build a new headquarters.
You want to have a workable city. You want to have a city that's vibrant. You want to have a city where the streets are full, where there are things for sale 24 hours a day. Then you need people who can live here and work here.
We got that right now, by the way. I would point out New York is thriving. So now it's doing pretty well, actually.
I'm glad you think they're doing well, because a lot of people are struggling to pay for housing.
She's a child. That's a child. Say, no, they can't afford housing and groceries. Let's elect a communist. And that guy was good. They're going to leave. They're already leaving. No major, Fortune 500 company is going to open a new headquarters in a city run by a communist. And she's okay with that. And, we'll make groceries more affordable with city-owned grocery stores. Sure you will. All right, I'm all in. Let's elect Zamdani just to make this wretched old woman look like a fool yet again. Speaking of old women who look like fools, we got to get, let's do Jasmine Crockett, because this is the best story of the day. We'll get to Nancy Pelosi and others, but big story in the New York Post yesterday. I know it's a surprise to everybody, but Jasmine Crockett is a horrible, wretched, evil, mean, nasty woman. According to her own staff, yes, this mean girl. It's amazing. She's going to win. She's probably going to win re-election. She's probably going to be in the House for 40 years. Be like the new Sheila Jackson Lee, another Texas congresswoman who was famous for abusing her staff. Apparently, that's what Jasmine Crockett does. I should just read this whole story. This is amazing. Headline: Jasmine Crockett is a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes her staffers. Aides say all diva. No, wow. Jasmine Crockett has positioned herself as an unfiltered critic of President Trump, earning regular TV appearances as an enthusiastic online following. But congressional aides tell the Post that the Dallas Democrat is just as rude and mean to her own staff. The liberal loudmouth has rocketed to fame since taking office in January 2023 as a fiery antagonist of the Republican president. But three sources who have worked with or for Crockett say she's rarely present when TV cameras aren't rolling and terrorizes staff when she does appear. Crockett is not often found at her government-provided suite at the Longworth House building, with one insider saying she prefers to work from her nearby luxury apartment, sometimes for weeks on end. Quote, she is laying around her apartment, won't come into the office, and is really just indifferent to her staff and will scream at them. She's never in the office and is very disengaged. She does her BS that goes viral and then freaks out over the most random things. The story goes on to just describe her as just the biggest diva. She requires a driver and a Cadillac Escalade. They rent a Cadillac Escalade to drive her like 2 blocks. And she requires her staff to get out and open the door for her. She sits in the back. She won't sit up front with her staffers. She yells at them if they bring her food she doesn't like, just abuses her people. She expects her staff to drive her around when she's in the back seat, the staffer said, calling it a power play, akin to treating her staffers like Uber drivers. It's incredible. This is one nasty woman, and she'll again, probably many of her constituents love it. She's famous. She's an influencer, which is what she wants to be. Here's just one recent moment of this out of control trash. That's what she is. She is trash and just embarrasses the Democrat Party. Hell, embarrasses Congress every time she puts on a performance. But here she is, not long ago, in a committee meeting, in a committee hearing in the House. Go ahead.
We're not going to do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
you just voted to do
Y'all
it.
did it first, so you
just voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get
Miss
clarification.
Crockett, you're not recognized. Miss
I can't hear
Crockett.
you with your yelling.
Don't want
Calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can
no,
you please calm down.
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk
Calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look, Chairman,
come
can we
and
send her
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a problem.
You could do better, Dallas. I'm sorry. She has a challenger who's also African American, which is important. Who's just a normal guy who's not a out of control lunatic. Why don't you pick him? Why don't you get rid of this trash once and for all? But you know what? As the story points out, she loves this. She thinks she belongs. She thinks she should have a committee chairmanship because she has a big social media following. She thinks that's how they should base their choices, on who chairs committees, who has the most Instagram followers. And that's what's important to her. She wants to be a social media star. Well, continuing our theme of this morning of the current state of the Democrat Party. It's not good. I'm sorry, Democrats, it's not good. I know normally the sitting president loses seats in the House and maybe seats in the Senate. In the midterms, I'm feeling pretty good about the midterms 1 year and 4 months from now, because the Democrats are in utter disarray. They're one of their leaders, I would say, Nancy Pelosi, who refuses to retire. And it's just, she's going to die. And she's going to be like what's her name? The other California, the Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's going to be in a wheelchair, completely incoherent, still voting. She's never going to give it up, even though she's worth $250 million.
Well, she's also got the incoherent part down already.
She sure does. And I don't know if she's drunk or just dementia's setting in. But here's the good news. In 2026, the trans issue is still going to be on the ballot. It was wildly effective for Republicans in 2024. We know Kamala Harris, as a candidate, stood by her view that taxpayers should pay for sex change surgeries for illegal aliens and convicted murderers. And all the candidates agreed that men should play in women's sports. Men should be allowed in the ladies' room and in the locker room. It blew up on them. And I keep waiting for them to change course, maybe change the message somehow, come up with a different message. You can't, if you expect to win, you can't continue to tell voters that, yes, you want men in the girls' room. It's a great issue for Republicans and a terrible issue for Democrats, but apparently they're sticking with it. But this is so perfect. This one clip, she is the embodiment of the Democrats' position on the trans issue right now. She's She's incoherent. She's confused. She's spouting just a horrible message to voters that they're going to continue to push for the mutilation and the drugging of confused children. Check it out.
How is your office responding to the pauses in gender affirming care here in California?
Well, that is something that I'm working for at the national level, and we have, are hoping that we can have gender affirming care for our trans kids, and that it's a sad thing for us. I'm not totally. I don't know what effect we can have nationally with what we have going on in the White House and in the Congress. It's really very sad. If you were there, outside our door, we have a trans flag. Outside of our door in the office, congressional office building, we have the trans flag, as do some of our other colleagues. But that view is not necessarily shared by people on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah, there is a strong message. Get her out on the campaign trail. We have a trans flag in our office. Oh, do you? That's sweet. They are losing this. This is my favorite issue, to be honest with you, because 5 years ago, you couldn't say, again, you couldn't say Leah Thomas is a guy and Rachel Levine is a man, and you couldn't say, men don't belong in women's sports. They would shout you down. They'd ban you. They'd label you a bigot. And now you could say that. Now we are winning. Now they are shutting down these barbaric clinics that do this to confuse children, that castrate them and drug them and make them pharmaceutical patients for life. People are waking up, opening their eyes to the insanity of the trans agenda. And there's their spokesman, this 100-year-old dementia patient saying, I got a trans flag in my office. Good. You continue to fly that. Do it all through the midterms. Do it through the campaign, because you will lose. All right, we got much more to get to. We got any comments? We got to save some time for our comments. It was a couple of, here's what I want to do. I want to do something I've never done before, Ironhead, in all my years. I've made sport of my awful Congresswoman, my crazy Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley. I generally look forward to her tweets so that I can mock them. She's a racist. She's a hater. Every issue is about reparations, and white supremacy. She's an absolute lunatic, an embarrassment to the state of Massachusetts, to her district, which is carved out just so she can remain in Congress. She'll be there for 40 years too, which is sad. But I agreed with Ayanna. For once, I swear to God, I have never seen her say or do anything that I could support. She is really that bad. Nothing. Here's what she tweeted yesterday, and I agree. In fact, I'm going to retweet it right now. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley on her official account. I'm leading oversight Democrats calling for a hearing to let survivors of Epstein's abuse testify before Congress. For those who wish to speak up, we cannot meet their courage with inaction. This is crucial to getting the healing, transparency, and accountability survivors deserve. Yes, I'm with you, Ayanna. Let's hear. We never hear from the victims. We all talk about the perpetrators and wonder who's on the list and who went to the island. And we know, Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and Larry Summers are up to their eyeballs. Trump wants us to go away because his name is in the files, because he's met with his fellow Palm Beach billionaire before he ran in the same circles, before he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. I'm okay with that. Trump, not surprised at all. Trump's name is there, but he didn't go to the island. And I don't believe he committed any of the crimes, but some people did. We have, according to Pam Bondi, 250 victims. I think we've never seen any of them testify before Congress, I don't believe. I mean, we heard from Virginia Roberts before she killed herself, but there are many, many victims out there. They deserve their day. They deserve justice here. So I'm with you, Ayanna. And I believe James Comer is too. I say, get it all out there, get it over with. Let's find out who actually committed these crimes. All right, that's the one and only time probably the rest of my life I will agree with Ayanna Pressley on anything. All right, before we get to Greg Gutfeld, I want to do this. Do I have time? Yes, I do. I want to do this. This is from, this made me laugh out loud. The Boston City Council, which is a collection of absolute nuts and freaks and weirdos, and as you'd expect in most blue city councils, these are just unhinged, crazy Democrats. These are, aspiring Ayanna Presleys. That's where she got her start. These people, they want to be the next Jasmine Crockett. But here's a city councilor, and someone introduced a bill or an issue about veterans committing suicide. Sounds like something everyone can agree on. We want to help veterans. We don't want them committing suicide. Of course, it sounds pretty, harmless, innocuous. Well, if you think that, then you don't know Boston. This is City Councilor Sharon Durkin. She heard someone mention, suicide prevention, like helping veterans who are considering committing suicide, and she was triggered. You just have to listen to understand to believe why this triggered this crazy liberal. Go ahead.
Not use stigmatizing language to describe those that have taken their own lives. I would prefer, instead of committed suicide, that we say something like, I feel like that creates a stigma, unfortunately, to something that is really an issue that people can't control. And having found a family member who attempted, I feel very strongly that we not use stigmatizing language to describe those particular incidences. Thank you.
I have never heard that before. I pay pretty close attention to the latest offensive terms, according to liberals. I've never heard anybody who said committing suicide. So she said people who have taken their own lives, and she mentioned someone who attempted suicide. That's not triggering, but committing suicide is. It's stigmatizing. Why is it? I don't even understand. Why is that stigmatizing? The word commit upsets her, and she asks the other counselors to find another way to say it. They took their own lives is okay, but committing suicide is triggering. That's your tax money at work. That's the liberal mind, the mind virus. Let's find something that upsets us, that offends us. You can't say committed suicide. What the hell? And it's okay to say they attempted suicide or they killed themselves. You can say that, obviously, but you can't say they committed suicide. Or she asks for more inclusive language. Someone voted for her. One of my neighbors voted for this lunatic. That is just incredible. All right, let's get to the big story of the day. Yes, it was a big moment in late night TV. Greg Gutfeld, the king of late night, who was kicking ass in the ratings, just crushing Colbert, just killed off Colbert, and he's coming for Kimmel. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever watched Jimmy Fallon. I see clips, but I don't watch Jimmy Fallon. So I watched for the first time, I think, ever. And I have to admit, I can't be a hypocrite here. If I'm going to sit here and kill Colbert and Kimmel for just being political hacks, for being extensions of MSNBC and being the late night, more feminine version of Rachel Maddow, well, Jimmy Fallon, I watched, didn't do any politics. He did a monologue with a bunch of silly songs and skits and bits, and it was moderately humorous. And then he interviewed Gutfeld. I'm expecting them to talk about two things. I was expecting Colbert and Trump. Trump, Colbert. I mean, you got to do it. You got to talk Trump. They didn't. They did a whole long story about the first time they met, and it was pretty good. Gutfeld pointed out that painted a picture of Fallon as just a drunken mess who doesn't even remember meeting Gutfeld. He was so wasted. That was good. And they had some yucks and some laughs. And I'm waiting for something about Colbert getting fired or something about Trump just breaking these guys, just ruining late night comedy. It never happened. It was just, and I guess this is what we ask these guys to do. Try to be Jay Leno, try to be Johnny Carson, try to be funny, appeal to the whole country. So I guess I can't knock him for it, but it was disappointing that there was no shots taken at Colbert or Kimmel. Here's a little bit of Gutfeld with Jimmy Fallon.
This show
that brought back memories.
Yeah, this is hilarious. We've met before.
Yes, you have no memory of it, which is understandable because we were wasted.
Okay.
But we have a mutual friend named Tracy. We won't get into it. He looks like a cross between a Viking and a larger Viking.
I know Tracy.
Yes. So he opens a bar. It's an illegal speakeasy in Hell's Kitchen. It was like the size of a shipping container.
How many years ago? This is
about 15 years, I think. And inside, it looks like a place where special ops forces waterboard terrorists.
Oh my God. It wasn't that bad.
Dude.
It was actually.
Dude, there was the bar. There was no bar. It was a cooler, like the kind you take to a beach. So we go in there and there's a cooler.
Dude,
and
you're not making this up. I totally know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yes. You remember this.
I think I remember bringing beer into the bar and then him charging me for my own beer.
That's Tracy. That is Tracy. He is very cheap, but if you want somebody dead, he'll do it.
There's a lot of, fake laughter, but that's, I guess, what Fallon does. He didn't want to do politics. He didn't want to do Trump. He didn't want to have Gutfeld attack his friends, Colbert and Kimmel. So I can't knock him. I guess it's working. Fallon's probably not going to get fired for alienating half the country. So that's how it went. And he talked about the rest of the story was Gutfeld says he lit up a cigarette. I don't even know. Gutfeld smoked, lit up a cigarette, probably doesn't anymore. And then a drunken Fallon ripped it out of his mouth and crushed it, said, "Those are bad for you." And he felt so bad. He left the bar, went to a store, bought him a new pack, and came back to the bar. So it was a pretty good story. A little long, but it was a pretty good story. And I don't think we'll see Gutfeld on Colbert or Kimmel, which is why I won't watch. But I watched Fallon for the first time, and it was okay. But I don't think he liked the story because doesn't Fallon have a reputation for being a big drinker? Wasn't that?
Yeah, and then there was he had random broken fingers, and
right. And there was one media outlet did a story on how he drinks too much, and his staff was worried about him, and I believe it. He is a little crazy, but all right, let's get to the comments. Do we have time for that, Ironhead? Yes, we do.
Yeah, the quality is subpar, but they're there.
Yeah, you say that every week.
Trying to light a fire under their ass.
Richard says everything he does is illegal. Worst so-called president we've ever had. Is he talking about Biden?
I believe he was talking about Trump. I believe that was during the Mar-a-Lago story.
Everything he does is illegal. Mr. Wonderful is all for himself. You think the way he carries himself isn't a red flag? Well, he's a businessman. He's an investor. I mean, he's just, forget who he is. Just listen to his message. He's an investor, and he's not going to invest in New York City. And he's trying to get a meeting with Zoran Mamdani. Mr. Wonderful wants to meet with him, and I guess trying to convince him that maybe, communism is not a good idea for our capital, for our, most important city, or the economic engine that drives the city. Just another reason I left Massachusetts for Florida. You get a lot of that. I'd like to do that too, but Pelosi looks like she's been eaten and digested and pooped out. Pelosi doesn't look good, but she's not supposed to look good. She's 84. She's not supposed to be in Congress. She's supposed to be playing with her great grandkids on the porch. It's just this madness that you just never retire because you can't give up the power. Jim says Pelosi looks like her face caught fire and someone put it out with a bag of nickels. Yeah, and she's not going to leave. She's just going to stay there until she dies. All right. There are a lot of mocking. I thought New Yorkers were smart, says Lisa. Apparently not. If they want government-run grocery store, that's ignorance. And the amazing thing is, if you look at the breakdown, the demographics, working class people, they know it would be a disaster. They don't support him. African Americans, Hispanic voters didn't support him in the primary. He was supported by rich white liberals. They're still the ones, if you see his little rallies, they're still the ones supporting him. Rich white liberals, that crazy lady with all the trans kids, Cynthia Nixon, big supporter, surrogate. They're the one, and they're not going to be affected. The ones who will be affected are the bodega owners who are going to lose their livelihood because of a government-run grocery store next door. Working people don't support communism, particularly immigrants. A lot of immigrants from Venezuela and Cuba who look at this and say, oh, what are you people doing? It is a good question, but it looks to me like it's inevitable. So I think it might be time to sit back and enjoy it. You get what you vote for. And New York City is getting a communist, an Islamicist communist, which again is a contradiction. A devout Muslim who pretends he supports LGBTQ rights and wants to invest $65 million in performing sex change surgeries on children. All right, one last thing on, just put it in the category of so much winning. The Daily Beast and James Carville were forced to officially apologize to Melania Trump this week to avoid a lawsuit. Carville said flat out that Epstein introduced Melania to Trump, which is not true, and she threatened to sue him. And that old lizard man had to apologize to her, which is great. And so did the Daily Beast. They're really going to lose their minds next week when Trump meets with Putin and maybe brings an end to the war, Biden's war. Man, will that send a lot of liberals over the edge? They'll have to find a way to criticize him if he ends this war that Biden had no interest in ending. Biden supported it, funded it, fanned the flames for a couple of years. It's going to end, and Trump's going to do it. And then they're going to have to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. God, will that drive these people insane. But that will do it for today and for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we'll do it again Monday morning.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.